Chris, Don, thank you for joining us at Gartner Data Centre Sydney 2018. It's great to have you both here. Just wanted to start with you, Don, around how'd you find the event this year?
So I think, as we see every year, the event was super valuable for us. The booth was busy, basically both days that we were active. Had a chance to have the appliance on the floor. Customers and prospects alike like to kind of see what that was. It started to spark a lot of good conversations around hyperscale, but more importantly, it linked well into some of the conversational topics we heard from Gartner. For the most part, we were kind of stacked away talking to customers in one-on-ones and really getting into the fine-grained details of what we're doing differently, how we're helping customers innovate and meet some of those data challenges. So really good conference. There's always really great interactions with customers and analysts alike. And also a chance to meet some friends from other companies and whatnot as we're all kind of meeting at this sort of IT Leaders Convention.
That's great. Chris, multi-cloud was a topic that came up this year, was very heavily talked about in the keynote and also during the sessions. Yep. I mean, what's your take on it?
Absolutely. So in the keynote, Gartner spoke about hybrid, multi-cloud, hybrid applications, even hybrid containers. The reasons behind this, there's multiple. The first one is to obviously not be locked in, to have a freedom of choice. So embracing a multi-cloud strategy means that you can choose the appropriate cloud for your appropriate workload, but there's also inherently some risk involved in that too. So some customers are choosing to have their production data in one public cloud and their disaster recovery data in a different public cloud. So that's another reason to adopt a multi-cloud strategy.
Strong conversations that were pervasive in a lot of our customer one-on-ones as well. They're all looking for how do we best utilize the cloud? Can we use multiples? Does it make sense to do so? And what are some of the success stories we've heard from other customers as well?
And from a Commvault perspective, we talk about data and workload portability. This is what allows you to embrace a multi-cloud strategy, because the cloud vendors are typically interested in keeping you in their ecosystem only. Lock-in was brought up a lot during the keynote as well.
And Don, I know you spoke about this in terms of modernising infrastructure. Multi-cloud's one of the areas they start with, but you spoke about successful traits you need to do that.
Right,
Can you elaborate on those now?
Yeah, so there were basically 5 keys we wanted to focus on in intermixing some fun stories and kind of examples of technology as well. And the first main one was basically knowing what you have and consolidating down infrastructures. Because once you know what you have, you'll probably find you can gain a lot of efficiencies by collapsing and really consolidating down. So that was one of the first keys. And that goes both on primary as well as what you might be doing on the secondary storage side. Beyond that, then, we talked about having a flexible and agile data infrastructure. So oftentimes customers want a flexible sort of see, feel, and touch hardware infrastructure. How you can maneuver your data, some of the portability things you even talked about in the multi-cloud strategy. That's key to ensuring that you can leverage whatever infrastructure of your choice in whatever location as fast and as agile as necessary. So we kind of walked through how Commvault helps in that perspective. The third main key then, of course, was about simplifying operations. I think a real key with all of the growth in data and operational constraints that many organizations have today, and it's essentially automating everything. So we walked through some cool new technologies, ways that we help customers simplify things, use some artificial intelligence and some new tech, and kind of dive into what that really means for them in managing their SLAs. The fourth major key was then focusing on that secondary infrastructure, how you can get more value out of it, and more importantly, how you can scale out effectively. So we double-clicked into hyperscale, talked about how you can work with some of our partners, our own appliance, and what that technology really means for driving the proper SLAs for their needs. And then we really ended it with making change easy. That's one of the things Commvault does very well for customers and helping them transition from one strategy to a next, or continue to mature down that overall life cycle as they see fit. And if you want to continue to transform, you have to make sure that you make that change easy and that you're doing it in a pragmatic fashion. So we kind of showcased how Commvault could do that as well. And it seemed to resonate fairly well. We had great conversations coming out of that session.
And so we also saw organizations transforming into business, and digital transformation is part of that, Chris. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so as businesses go through that digital transformation process, we're seeing new types of data emerge. It's no longer traditional data in a data center. We're seeing social media data. We're seeing IoT telemetry data. And then that has an impact on the infrastructure itself. So the data is emerging from multiple different locations. So digital transformation inherently introduces some risks, introduces some challenges. And to be able to address that, there really needs to be a solution that is distributed by nature, that is an open data platform that encompasses all types of data and all types of locations.
But I guess when they go through those sort of new transformation efforts and down those sort of journeys, it opens up new risks to the business and security issues. We've seen that in some ways with some of the new recent ransomware attacks. And Don, you've had some experience with it.
Yeah, it did come up in a lot of our customer one-on-ones, and much like we're talking about digital transformation, we continue to transform our own software as well. So if you kind of think about what we do as a company, we're constantly collecting, sort of IoT data in a way of all the jobs that operate, performance metrics, etc. And so we've been actually working and innovating and taking all of those details and identifying different patterns in how data is changing, patterns in how information is being collected, what's being transferred across your network, how changes are occurring, and starting to help customers identify where specific anomalies might actually be coming out of that. So that's important because it allows them to manage more by exception and really start to understand if there is a zero-day event that occurs from ransomware and malware. While we're not the perimeter defense, we are scanning and watching what's occurring on the actual data sets themselves, so we can kind of pinpoint where different things might be occurring, and more importantly, at what points in time you might need to recover back to if you do get hit by that ransomware event. So those sort of file anomaly tracking, the alerts that come out of it, the ability to kind of let operations know, makes streamlining that a whole lot more simplified. And at the same token, by using that intelligence, we're transforming our software to be a whole lot more intelligent, sort of self-healing on its own.